Channels Television. Welcome to the Morning Brief. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
And I'm Kaido Kikilu. It's Thursday. Just one more day to go this week. It's February the 19th, 2026. You're welcome. What a day yesterday. Finally, the Electoral Act is now within 2026, signed in record time by President Bola Tinubu just a day after it was passed at the National Assembly. You think that maybe the lawmakers just drove through the back gate of the National Assembly to Aso Rock Villa. Maybe they did. And there you have it. We're going to be showing you the moment where President Bola Tinubu signed the Electoral Act into law. Yes, sir.
What is crucial is the fact that you manage the process to the extent there will be no confusion, no disenfranchisement of Nigerians, and that we are all going to see democracy flourish. It is time that we have confidence in our system. No matter how good a system is, it's managed by the people, promoted by the people, and the result is finalized by the people. In fact, for final results, you are not going to be talking to the computer, you are going to be talking to human beings who will announce the final results. And when you look at the crux of various arguments, maybe Nigeria should question our broadband capability. How technically are we today? How technically will we be tomorrow to answer the call of either real time or no? And we need to avoid glitches. I'm glad you did. Interference, unnecessary hacking in this age of, computer inquisitiveness. Nigeria will be there. We will flourish. We will continue to nurture this democracy for the fulfillment of our dream for prosperity and stability of our country.
There you have it, President Bola Tinubu speaking during the signing of the amended Electoral Act. Now, this is against the backdrop of the contention around the provisor that was added for the electronic transmission of results. And that's the president speaking. Well, the Senate president also spoke. The Speaker of the House of Reps spoke after that event yesterday. So what is the way forward now? A few routes for those who still insist that it must be electronic transmission and no proviso. Well, if we have to tweak that section, then it has to go through the process of lawmaking yet again. So there has to be an amendment now to this recently amended Electoral Act, and it goes through the process. Obviously, maybe not an executive bill. It has to be introduced by a member of the House of Representatives. Member of the National Assembly. That's one route. The second route, if that is too long, because we're just counting down to elections, the second route is to then wait for election day to then implement this properly. Don't forget that INEC's guidelines have to come out on just how this will be prosecuted. Now, that is one other thing to look out for. Let us see how INEC is going to treat this? What will be the guidelines for the electoral officers on the day? Will they be mandated to take the picture from EC80 just right after the election is conducted and the results are written out? Will the guidelines mandate them? That's something to look out for, because that is a loophole that can be exploited. But hey, it's either you amend, wait for INEC, and wait for election day to properly implement this law as Nigerians. But Jeffrey, it has become already.
I think the Senate President also made comments after that signing. So maybe we'll take a listen to the Senate President as well.
We are satisfied that we have met the aspiration of Nigerians. That the issue of real time also comes in. Once you transmit, even if there's no network at that time, once you go to where there's network, it will still drop. So eventually everything will still be shown. So we are happy and satisfied that we have been able to interpret the intentions and the yearnings of majority of Nigerians, not those who are politically motivated, not few people who make noise. Noise is different from lawmaking. And I always say, no matter what we did in the last 2 years, we went to retreat in Lagos, we went to retreat in Ibadan, everywhere. Those things were just mere consultations. The final outcome of what was amended happens in the plenaries. This has never happened since 1960. We have never had electronic transmission of result in any of our laws. We never even recognized the IRF in the 2022 Act. All those things are now there. And at the end of the day, more powers are given to political parties.
The number of days notice, which was earlier in the 2022 Act, 360 days. Now we have seen the wisdom to reduce it to 300 days. And this will inadvertently translate to holding the presidential and National Assembly elections in January 2027. And that will technically avoid conducting election during month of Ramadan of 2027. And I think this is another one piece of unity that the National Assembly has introduced to avoid voter apathy in the next general election.
So there you have it, the Speaker. But Jeffrey, does this maybe provide an insight, particularly what the President of the Senate said, that, well, the picture will be taken, and once there's internet, it's expected to upload?
That is very correct, which is why they shouldn't have given a provisor. But the provisor is there. It's now law. As you said, there is nothing anyone can do, just to be vigilant as far as it. So he's speaking, they're just speaking from both sides of their mouths. We could see that during the hearing, at least the open hearing, we didn't see the NCC to come and say, yes, there's a capability. We didn't hear INEC itself come to say we have the capability, but we have document by INEC. So
we lack the capability.
So we lack the capability. So, sorry for that. I keep referring to that position paper of 2021 that had INEC, NCC, and mobile network operators that alluded to the fact that 93% of polling units, those were their words, polling units, had some form of internet connectivity, which is about 2G, 3G, 4G, whatever. And then they now decided to say MTN, Airtel, all the network, take different, more like mapping. You take this area, take that area, and then provide this, that, and the other. And it was the earmark about 300 and something billion to that effect. So this is as far back as almost 7 years ago. So the issue of internet connectivity and broadband penetration is just political talk. With greatest respect to the president and the Senate president, we've passed that stage. So this for me is just using, grasping at straw to use as excuse to give a provisor that will give room for electoral fraud. Now, at face value, Kaide, it looks innocent. I'll listen to Mike Guinea. He said when we're using smart card readers, they provided for people that are physically challenged that don't have thumbprint, which is why it was elevated to bimodal, which is eye and thumbprint. He said he realized in one of the states he conducted election, all of a sudden, a lot of people in communities do no longer have their fingers anymore. And then the issue of incident was so. Kaide, the point is that provisors are always good as backup, but politicians now exploit that provisor to carry out electoral fraud from incident form to some of the things that are done for people that are physically challenged. That is why everybody's saying, since since beavers can operate online until you need to upload the result, because they'll say confirmed document. There's a 15 steps, there are 15 steps or so for you to be able to, upload from the INEC document. Different things you have to do, like 15 steps before you upload. But you must confirm that document. And if it goes, there's network. If it doesn't go, there will be no network. That means there's no network where you are. And I can tell you for a fact, from the documents we've seen and from what we know, significant majority of places in Nigeria, say 3 hours max or so, we should have election result that should almost determine outcome, if not for the shenanigans. Now, the law, the beautiful thing, and I agree with Senator Akpabi on this, that they've elevated. It's not as if there was no electronic transmission in our law. That is not an accurate statement. It's just that it wasn't an act of parliament. It was a subsidiary law by guidelines. And that argument, because the interpretation of the Supreme Court is also what brought the confusion. CBN regulates banks. CBN, how many times do you see banks and CBN go to court over laws and interpretation? It is powers, the law says CBN regulate banks. So CBN will sit down and look at what works for the banking sector. That is the same thing that happens. INEC decide how you want to run your election. They now bring out guidelines which are seen in law as subsidiary or delegated or inferior laws in that sense. So there has always been electronic transmission, at least from the last election, also even 2015, let's say to a last election. But now it's been elevated to an act of parliament, so it gives it more stature. So as far as this is concerned, I still stay where I was, Kade. As far as this is concerned, there was no need for that provisor. If we know beavers can operate the way it is geniusly designed, knowing our shortcomings, but you have to work with what is now available. So what is now left for you as Nigerians? I'll tell you. Number one, eternal vigilance. You need to be vigilant. There should not be any excuse. And I'm going to keep repeating this till the election for everyone who cares to listen. There is no reason why a polling officer, after everybody has signed and countersigned, should not snap that EC8A in your presence. It is now law. You must snap it, capture it, scan it, whatever word you want to use, before it leaves that place or wherever there is network. That is now the law. And now it is justiciable because it is, the law says the polling officer shall. So that means if we go to court now, that is going to be justiciable as well. Besides the issue of physical collation, which is also part of the process. Because when you go to the collation center, as we look at their disparity, we should be able to say, okay, what was captured on IRF that all of us have been able to see at the end of the day, so that we don't have issues. And this is where INEC needs to step up. We need to be final on the issue of INEC's own document. I'm happy that now the law says IRF documents belongs to INEC. It's not my father, my late dad, or me that put it there. It is INEC that put it. It's an INEC official that will snap it. So all of that viewing portal is still a viewing portal, but it now has the strength of law, IRF and electronic transmission of results. So all hope is not lost. Vigilance is eternal. Politicians will always, if you like, Kaide, if you like, make it more stringent. This law now, make it even more stringent. Remove the provisor, make it even more stringent. The politicians will look for a way to undermine the system.
And let's not forget the people that work with
So
them.
you have to work hard
Absolutely.
to stop them.
So
it's not as if it's Uhuru anyway.
Yeah, so there's the politicians, there's those who implement it for them, and there are people who willfully participate, either because of their socioeconomic status. Election day, all this English, election day is quite different.
It's a different
so that's why
ballgame
we
altogether.
keep telling people that, you know what, you have your responsibility as well. And looking at this, the record signing, I was looking through how long it takes President Tinubu to sign, bills. Last year, the tax laws, right? It took over a month for the president to sign it. Even recently, the Electricity Act that was amended again, it was passed last year. The president signed it this year. But the Electoral Act amendment was signed in record time, a day. So clearly, the game is on. But that's not all that happened.
No, just to add to what you said, Kari, it had to be signed because there's an election coming up on Saturday. There's an election coming up subsequent.
And I think the reason we should probably have waited, because for this election on Saturday now, which will apply? It has to be the 2026.
So no, it has to be this law.
Exactly.
So there is
how many days to the election?
The point is that there are not too many variations. It's just changing, like for instance, 360 to 300.
Doesn't apply for this.
Certain things that have been done already, like issue of only direct primary and consensus, which is another fraudulent system. Although it's well intended, but as I told you, politicians will look for a way. This gives opportunity for money back, so still hold on to the political parties themselves. So it has to be signed, because if it doesn't sign it as quickly as it should be, what will happen is that it will affect the timeline of the election. So we may have to just be running with the 2022
Let me rephrase
election.
that, Jeffrey. It had to be signed as quick as possible because this FCT election is important. Is a must-win.
Yes, for APC.
I believe that's also why it was signed so far. It's a must-win for the APC. I mean, you heard what the FCT minister was literally saying to the people that, you know what, if you vote for APC, I will do more projects in this
That's
place.
a politician talking. It's not a responsible statement in my view.
Because that's indicting.
Yes, it's a very irresponsible statement.
That's
from
indicting.
The greatest respect
because
to the
whether you vote for a party or not,
as long as you have won, you're
meant to. The project should be done.
So, as a matter of fact, there's a video we saw of a lawmaker in Benue State as well, who made a very reckless, irresponsible statement, although it's a political statement, that if you don't go and register for APC, even job opportunities, we've even seen it in some states in the South. And this idea, look at this. Let's watch, okay, maybe this particular video as well. Maybe let's take a listen. This is what we're talking about. So the area council elections, there are 6 area councils in Abuja, the FCT. Elections are this Saturday. But the PDP candidate has stepped down for the, for the APC candidate, brokered by Nyesom Wike, the FCT minister.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Honorable Julius Adamu, the immediate personal speaker for area council, and now the PDP candidate for area council. I'm standing here before you this afternoon to tell you that I have gone into a deep consultation with the Honorable Minister of FCT. And I will have come to conclusion that I and Joshua, we are brothers. And it will not be nice for 2 brothers to kill themselves over one reason. So as such, I have relinquished my support to Honorable Joshua. You see, Joshua, we are from the same world with Joshua. He served as a councillor from 2026 and removed him from office from 2019 to 2022.
So let me say, Kyle, let me say this. It is politically okay in Nigeria to do anything you want, but it is democratically, recklessly irresponsible and ludicrous for some of the things I see happening in our democracy. And this is me admonishing young people that some of the templates you're seeing by the political class, please, that is not democracy at all in any shape or form. Things like, I will do for you if you do this for me. Like the FCT minister has said to the people, I will do more. Well, he doesn't have a choice but to do for the people, because when you win an election, you have to do for the people. He doesn't have to. Now, I heard the Zamfara state governor complaining about he's not gotten some maybe intervention fund, while APC states are getting. Remember, we had a conversation with one Kano government official, and I pushed, I literally engaged him to say, what is the move about? Because this man will still win this election with our APC. he now talked about neighboring states having some intervention funds from federal government, but they don't have, so this will give them leeway. So it looks like economic interventions are partisan in that sense, and that is irresponsible of any government if it is found to be true. So this idea, I saw, I think, a video on our platform where I think the BOT chairman of the Nyesom Wike faction endorsing Alex Soti and President Tinubu. What kind of reckless, irresponsible democratic practice is this? So what I'm saying in essence, if you want to support the APC, go and join the APC. If you want to support the ADC, stay in the ADC. If you want to stay in the PDP, work for the PDP. What is this idea of surrendering a whole political party's candidate to all? And this is candidate. Two things may happen to the PDP if we're not careful. One is that they may not have a candidate. Two is that the Nyesom Wike group will likely produce a weak candidate if they are the ones that win eventually in the court. Three is that the candidate of their group will eventually, what do they call it now?
Endorse
President Bola Tinubu.
I think that's the game plan. We've seen it play out in the FCT.
It is irresponsible.
But I should just reiterate that whether the people of Buhari or any other area councillor that vote for the APC or not, projects must be done. The dividends of democracy must be delivered to them. It's not by how they vote. And I understand all of the gimmicks of politics, wanting to win and all of that, but that should not be the yardstick. And we should have gone past that for delivering the dividends of democracy, because you are called the leader of the area, not just the leader of those who voted for you. In any case, in that same area, you would have people that voted for you. So you're actually punishing them as well, in the manner of speaking, if you're not delivering the basics, by the way, and good governance. So while we keep watching what's going to play out in the FCT this Saturday, because a lot of people see that as a foretaste of what we will see during the coming elections, let us switch gears now and take a look at how the front pages are relaying all of these big stories from yesterday in a moment. Stay with us.